Well, hey there, it's Elka, and welcome to another episode of the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm here as your host today, and I would love to get deep into this topic, which is how 2021 results can help you plan for 2022. And I love planning. That's my forte. I love seeing how things can play out and what I need to do now in order to get to the results later. And that's actually probably one of the things that's really helped me in my business so that I can scale my Zazzle business to such great lengths and sell millions of dollars worth of Zazzle products every year. Now, if you're new to this podcast and you're listening to me for the first time, you've heard the intro. And yes, we use this platform called Zazzle, we as in my daughter and I, and we are so happy and excited not only to be continuing to be successful on the Zazzle platform, but we also are so thrilled with our clients, coaching clients that we've had be with us and trusted us over the last 4 years to help them create those sales on Zazzle that they've always been desiring. And one of the things that is so key is with our clients, what we do is this type of thing that I'm going to go into today. Obviously, we would go into more specifics when we're doing the client coaching, and that's just a given, right? That's just clear. I can't do that as a general podcast, but I can give you what you need to do. And so I'm going to walk you through a process and an exercise so that you yourself, whether you're on a Zazzle platform or maybe you're not even, don't even have a Zazzle business yet or any business whatsoever, but you want to have an online business in the future, maybe in 2022. And so at that point, these exercises are still going to be helpful for you. They're going to help you understand and define your goals, and they're going to give you concrete ways to get your goals started and work towards in 2022. And there's lots of help. I'm going to direct you to some links, and I'm going to walk you through some of the key pieces if that's the thing that you want to do, is to start your own online Zazzle business. But even if that's not like the business you want, but you're doing like Etsy or Shopify or something, these are going to still apply to you, and you're going to be able to use these types of principles. Even though I'm going to use a Zazzle example, you're going to use those principles to do those things in your online business that you've got. So let's get started. Okay, so I also want to know that you understand right from the very beginning. I'm speaking to you no matter whether you have failed at your goals, succeeded at your goals, or over-exceeded and overachieved your goals. This applies to every one of you. It doesn't matter which stage you're in or what happened in 2021. The key is to use the learnings to move yourself forward. So even like the learnings doesn't mean, the stuff that went wrong. It means also the learnings of what went right. And also what happened because you overachieved, for example. And so this is the key piece. And we always forget, as we plan for the future, the first thing we go to is what didn't work. But what we need to do is actually just see what happened. And then we can say, okay, this happened because of this, and this happened because of this. So it's not a right or wrong or bad or good. It's right away more of an operational perspective of your business and or even your lack of a business, and it might be in your personal situation. And I'm going to speak to that a little bit. And the objective and the result of your analysis is that you actually want to start an online business in 2022 and start making it happen for you, then that's what I'm talking about here. So all situations apply. So make sure you stay tuned and listen to the whole episode. Okay, so I'm going to cover 3 main points. I'm going to help you reflect back on 2021 and what you've achieved. And then I'm going to work you through how you feel and what you would like to feel. First, how you felt at the end of 2021, which is pretty close and dear and near to your heart right now because you're listening to this at the beginning of January, even though I'm recording it just before Christmas. And then you're going to say, well, what is it that you're going to want to feel at the end of 2022? And what are you going to need to get to that feeling, right? And so we're going to help you define that. And then we're going to help you set your goals for 2022. Exciting, right? Okay, so let's get right into it. So I'm going to start with the first point, which is the exercise of reflecting back on 2021, what your goals were and what you achieved. So let's start with what are your goals, right? What were your goals for 2021? And here I'm going to bring in a terminology. It's called KPIs, which is short for key performance indicators. And that's just a very fancy way of saying that you needed to have some numbers and you had to, set your goals specific to not just what you want to get out, like in terms of earning a money value, but also like your performance. How did you perform to get that money value, for example? And did you do the work, and how did the work happen work for you in terms of results that would lead to the money? And so in terms of the KPIs, maybe you just set a goal last year that was a money goal. Like, I want to make $1 million, right? And or I want $1 million in revenue on the Zazzle platform, for example, because we are Zazzle focused. And unfortunately, that's just such a large goal. And if there was no other goals that you had in between, like, in the first quarter, I want to make this much. In the second quarter, I want to make this much. Or what is it that I'm going to make in terms of products? Or what is it that I'm going to do in terms of hours of production? Or what is it that I'm going to do in terms of learning and investing in myself to create the things that I need to create on the Zazzle platform in my Zazzle store to sell that amount of money that I want as my final goal, right? So all of these things, what you're measuring not only your end result, which is the money, but you're also measuring what did you do to get there, right? In terms of showing up, hours worked, products made, so that you're have a chance to have those sales happen, and obviously the other things can be more specific, toned down in terms of did I have the right design skills? Did I have the right SEO skills? Did I actually do the work, or did I just put products up in terms of numbers, but they weren't really intentional? And when I was working those hours, did I check Facebook half the time, right? So you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the quality of what those KPIs mean. And so you can actually create more and more measures as to how you perform a certain key summary measure, right? Like hours worked means a lot more than just I sat in front of the computer and I did some work. Then you have that second metric, which is the number of products I made. So that would be, okay, well, if I, worked this many hours and I made this many products, I fell short, right? Like, because you're working backwards from the dollar amount, and you're saying, okay, on average, this is how much a product, like I'd have to make this many products in order to make this much sales, so on. And also, but are they the quality products that I need? Am I targeting the right markets, and so on? And so what we want you to know is that it's a little deeper than I want to make $1 million in sales on the platform. And if you didn't go that deep last year, or in 2021, and when you're listening to this, it'll be 2022, then that's where you're stuck, right? And so that key piece is going to have to happen in 2022 in order for you to be a little bit more in control of your business, rather than it being just like a hope. Right? You're at this point, you made this excited goal. I'm going to make $1 million in sales, but then you're just hoping, right? And so instead, what we're doing is we're putting plans in place, and then we're going to actually monitor how you're doing every week, every month, or whatever you want to do, but at least regularly enough, monthly at the bare minimum, to see how you're doing, so that you have that chance to keep fixing things throughout the year, and not just have another year go by that didn't end up having the result you wanted from your good intentions and your dreams and hopes, right? Okay, so that's like a really important piece, and so I want you to at least grab whatever you did do as a measure that you calculated, and the least thing would be just what did you want to earn, right? But hopefully you have even more measures that you checked on, and be really realistic as to, honest to God, honestly, did you do the things you were supposed to do? And if you didn't, then you go like, okay, well, I've just got to show up more in my business next year. I had everything in place, but I didn't show up. And by showing up, that's kind of like coaching terms for actually doing the work intentionally, in a way that would result in the profits, because that's one of the things we've noticed with all of our coaching clients. Not everyone is doing well. There's some people who are doing terribly. And it's not because of the training, because otherwise everyone would be doing terribly. The people who unfortunately are not doing so well didn't show up in their business the way they needed to in order to generate that revenue. And that's a hard, cruel fact, but it's the truth. That's not the training or the coaching. It's how the person who wants to create that business has shown up. And maybe that's all you were able to do, show up like in that certain way. But then you can't expect that result, right? And by having these numbers, then you can say, okay, well, that explains it, right? I did this, but it didn't happen. And then obviously some of you are going to come back to me and go like, well, but Brandon only works 20 hours a week and he makes like X number, $100 plus products a month, which is what we tell everyone in our coaching, community. And unfortunately, though, his choices of what he made on his products in terms of the designs, the targeted markets, and so on, were more strategic and more thoughtful and intentional than maybe something that you have done, right? If you haven't gotten there yet. And that's why you have to work with people who can tell you, this is what's intentional, this is going to work, this probably won't work, don't waste your time on that, do this instead. And that's going to really help. And then also, Brandon shows up. Like, he gets up at 5:30 in the morning before his regular day job, in order to do his hour per week, so that per day, so that he can get 5 hours in a week, and then that way he gets his 20 hours a month. And so this is important as a big lesson to learn when you're looking at your results. If you've measured specifically how you've worked, you will actually find the numbers will explain your story. And if your story is different than what it took to, and your result is this, something you don't want, and your story is this, then obviously you have to change your story in terms of how you come to your business and what you do in your business in order to make it work. And then if you're one of these wonderful people who met your goals this year, congratulations, kudos to you. And then now your story that you found out and used as a way to see and analyze as 2021 of your numbers is definitely what you want to repeat in 2022, or even increase and leverage better, so that you can even go further with more and more results, right? And as of this, actually in December already, before we even get finished with December, it's really wonderful for me to be able to say that Brandon actually in this year alone in 2021 has made over $150,000. And that brings his lifetime earnings to over $300,000. And so that's something that he knows now, that he has done certain things. He's kept the metrics, he's kept up with the metrics, and he's monitored them all the way through. And he knows exactly when he's dropped the ball and what he needs to do to pick up the ball again and actually leverage it more to make up for when he dropped the ball. And so I want you to all be in that position at one point, so that you can really manage your business very clearly. And even though he's only done his 20 hours a month, and even though he's only done his 100 products a month if he wants to. And that's really important, because others are making $100 products a month and working more hours probably and not getting there yet. And it is a balance. And what I want you to know is that you have to work that out for yourself. You have to know how to work. If you're not working fast enough or smart enough, then you have to get trained to do differently, right? And so it's not just about the hours, but the hours explain your story. The data explains your story, whether it's hours or products, and whether you still have those numbers of hours and number of products the same as what Brandon did. if you're not getting the same result, then your story is a different story, even though you've had the same metrics, right? It means maybe in those hours you're not as effective, or maybe in those hours you think you're working, but you're not working, or your intentional products that you think are intentional maybe not as effective as what you want them to be in order to get that result. So that's super, super important, and you see how it's all tied in, right? Okay. And so now, if you haven't set your goals in that specific way for 2022, stick with me. End of the podcast, we're going to talk about that as to how you can set those goals. Even in our last coaching call with Brendan, which just happened this past week, he's still talking about the ERSD goals, and I'll explain it all at the end so that you also know. And the things that we teach in the Profit by Design Academy and the things that we do personally are the things that work, right? You just have to work them well in order to make them work for you. And so remember that, and we'll help you set those goals more specifically, especially if in 2021, even if you set those goals, maybe you need a little bit more help in terms of how to adhere to them and what they mean to you and how you have to stick to them, right? And what, how much pressure you have to put on yourself almost in order to make sure that that's your guideline and your goal. Actually, it's not just a guideline, sorry. And that makes a huge difference in terms of the why and the attitude towards that. Okay, so then the next thing that I want you to ask yourself is, how do you feel right now? No matter whether you didn't meet your goals, met your goals, or even exceeded your goals, what is it that you're feeling right now? And think about it for a bit, right? I mean, I just, and let it sit with you. And I think that's really important, because at first what you're going to do is you're going to have a gut reaction. You're going to go like, oh, it didn't work, or man, I wish I would have made more money, or I made so much, now it's going to be so scary. How can I repeat that? That was like, I put like 1,000% of my time and effort in that, and now how am I supposed to repeat that again, right? So whatever that feeling is, whether it's anxiousness or frustration or anger or I don't know, like a lack of confidence, lack of clarity, please feel it, and feel it really strongly. And then walk away for a bit, and a couple of days, ask it again, right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to go through a couple of stages of gut reaction first, which is what's going to happen first. Then you're going to have a little bit more of a perspective reaction if you ask yourself a couple of days later. And then next you're going to have like the actual clarity reaction. By that I mean your brain has had a chance to mull it over, think about it, and then instead of an emotional response, which is what we start with, right? Because that's what I said. I said, how do you feel? Your body and your mind is tapering the whole thing, but you have to start at the gut visceral reaction, and then it'll start to move more into logic, and then it'll go into dreamer mode. And so what you can do is you can use that as a way to, and journal on each of those, right? So that that first day, how do you feel? And I want you to actually read it later again, because whatever it is, more than likely you're listening to this and you're going like, I didn't make my goal, and I'd really like to get my goal to increase anyway, even if I did meet my goal, because my goal was kind of low. And so I want you to to capture that moment of a gut visceral reaction, because that actually truly tells the story, unless what you're doing is self-sabotaging and not letting yourself feel what you truly want, right? And when we are as entrepreneurs, we have to actually use a lot of intuition and gut feeling to know what's right for us. Because on the other hand, everything has to be aligned in our business. In addition to meeting the numbers and getting that income, ultimately, the only reason you're doing this is to be in alignment and to have joy and enjoy the process. And also, even though it's hard and there's lots of hard work, there's lots of times where you want to quit, but in the end, you're feeling really great about your business, right? And so the gut reaction can be a disappointment in yourself. It could be a disappointment in just factors beyond your control that you, or may think that are beyond your control and maybe actually can be in your control. And then also it can be a really big sign as to what you really want, but you've never really allowed yourself the allowed yourself to just let it out and find out truly, because there's so many societal pressures on us, right? There's that pressure of wanting to be rich when everyone around us is going like, what's wrong with how much you make right now? Or, rich people are ruthless and the only way they can get to that money is by cheating others. And so many money block issues might be part of the reason why you're having that issue. And also ask yourself, what kind of behavior did you have as you moved through the year as to what happened and why it didn't work for you? Did you always get all excited you wanted to start, and then all of a sudden you kind of got cold feet, I guess is the way to go, or very nervous or anxious when you started, and you just didn't feel like you could do it on your own or whatever? And even if you had help, did you use the help properly, or did you get overwhelmed, for example? And so all of that you need to feel, right? Because your body's actually giving you a lot of feedback, not just the numbers, but the feedback emotionally of what happened over the last year. And if you don't do that soon, especially after you've just had a nice little break in the holidays, if you don't do that soon, then after a while, it'll just disappear into your memory, right? And it'll be, as I said, like if you come back a couple of days later, especially if you've already had that first run through of the emotions and you've really thought about it, and all of a sudden you feel this gut reaction, then you've felt that, right? And then the next time you think about it, your body's already tapering it a bit. And that tapering is okay. But it's kind of what you would feel like 4 months out from when something happened, right? You're gonna forgive, you're gonna let go of some memories so that you can move on without getting bitter and angry. And so we want to feel that emotion right away. We want to journal it, and we want to remember it as we move through of 2022, because it's truly what you want. Right? It's truly what you want, and you're just afraid to ask for it, or you think you can't achieve it, so you're just willing to sacrifice or not allow yourself to get there. I'm thinking of the word, but I can't think of it right now. In terms of just, it's not really a self-sabotage in some cases. It's just like you don't believe you can get there yourself, and so therefore you accept. That's the word I'm looking for, is you accept your circumstances, right? But that's not okay. If you want it, and if you gut reaction says you want it, you've got to go for it. Otherwise, you'll start to get angry and disappointed with yourself, and it's not okay. Give this a shot, right? If you can't give it your all, then unfortunately, you're never going to know if it really could happen for you. Listen, the same person that is now making over $300,000 in lifetime earnings, Brandon, struggled for 5 years before when he was doing it on his own and tried so hard with so many different things, and on the Zazzle platform made not more than $500 a year. So in 5 years, $500 at peace, that's $2,500. That's all $2,500 for 5 years of work, right? He obviously didn't work at it 24/7, but he tried on his own, and his best efforts gave him that. And now, having been in the coaching program, guess what? 4 years, almost 4 years, I would say 3.5, 4 years, he's made over $300,000, right? What a difference. So if you think you can't do it because of your past results, that's not something that you should use to judge what you're capable of. It just means that you might not have the tools and the knowledge you need, but you do have the ability. Okay? So I want to hear that loud and clear that you're doing that. And tell us in the, you're obviously part of the Creative and Ambitious Entrepreneur Facebook group, and if you're not, the link is in the show notes. And also, if you're in one of our training courses or in our coaching program, I want to hear from you. I want to see you post in the chat, or even message us privately if you don't want anyone to know about it. But I want to see that you went through that process, because it will give you that motivation. And it will also make you feel that visceral emotion that is the core as to why you even want to start this and do this, right? And also, then we can help you work through all those feelings that come up in terms of whether it's a fear of further success, or if it's a fear of never getting to the success. We're here for you, and we're here to support you. And obviously we'll provide you with either information where you can go look, or something else that's a podcast episode or whatever, or you might actually be interested in working with us and helping you get through some of these things, and so that it doesn't happen again in 2023. Okay, so that's the first part, and I really wanted to spend a lot on that because goal setting is so tough, right? And I wanted to help you understand that when you bring it down to numbers, then it tells a story. And if once it's a story, the personal stuff is out of it, right? You can see it. And I always actually point here. I don't know why, but like it basically makes takes it. I've separated myself from the story. I can still see that I did these things correctly, and I did these things in a way that didn't result in like any progress that I wanted, but instead I don't feel so bad about myself, right? I just go like, okay, well, obviously I didn't perform for that, or I didn't create that goal, or I didn't do that task, or whatever. And so then I can learn, and I can be very objective afterwards. But then I also want you to tap into that visceral feeling that's almost kind of going to make you like it's a little bit of a shaming almost, because I want you to tap into that gut reaction that doesn't normally happen, because we usually go like, I'm trying my best, or I'm doing this or whatever. But if you look back at the year and you go like, oh man, I wish I would have also made $150,000 in 1 year like Brandon did. And you're like, how the heck did that happen? And obviously it didn't happen for me. So what is the difference? So I want that like real desire and drive, and that will help you move through 2022 and do the hard stuff. Obviously, you can also create like a really strong why for yourself as a motivator, but I think sometimes our own guilt complexes help us do that more than anything else. But I would still like to have you take that guilt and move it towards a positive outcome that would do things like say, okay, I'm going to have a better lifestyle. I'm going to have less stress. I'm going to have more cash and work less hours. I'd like to do this kind of lifestyle rather than having to drive in my car to go to work every day for 2 hours, one there and one back, that kind of thing. And those are cool whys, but the most important is the higher whys. And sometimes those higher whys have to be connected to that emotion in order for us to really, truly be on board and give it our all and show up every day 1,000%, right? Even when we're not working, we have to start thinking about how we run our business at the 6 and 7 figure level rather than at the, I hope I get a payout in 2 months from Zazzle. I want you each to get a payout every month. And then I want that payout to go up and up and up and up. And if you do the math and you go like 150, well, let's just do 120 divided by 12. So that means Brandon was averaging over $10,000 a month. So think about it that way and go like, $10,000 a month. That sounds really interesting. I could handle that, right? So if that's what you want, then that's your goal, and we need to get you there. And obviously there's a lot of training that's involved. Brendan's been with us in our courses and our coaching program for the last 3.5, 4 years. And he's definitely squeezed everything out of those training programs to get where he wants to be. So I will highly encourage you to do the same. All right, so now I want you to also look forward, because now I've asked you to look back, but now I want you to look forward, and I want you to ask yourself, how are you going to feel at the end of 2022? When we do this exercise again, what is your feeling going to be? Is it going to be different than the one you just had? Or is it going to be the same? And if it's going to be the same, well then obviously there's some problems if it's not a good, healthy feeling, right? If you're just going to be elated because you overachieved again, awesome. If you're going to be elated because you met your goals again, awesome. If you're going to be upset that you didn't achieve your goals again, then obviously we have some opportunities for you to work with us to see how that could go and fix what it is that's, you're doing for no reason because it's not working, right? Okay, so, and I just want to look at my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. So, but the thing is I don't want you to wait for 2022 to be over before you have that same feeling as before, especially the negative one, right? Because if obviously if you're not achieved your goal this year, or maybe you haven't even started your business and you want to switch it, then what is it that you need to do about it in order to get there, right? And I want you to have a different feeling. I want you to have a happy, elated feeling next at the end in December of 2022. And so then you can work backwards and see how it is that you can get there. Definitely, obviously, avoid some of the things you did to create the negative feelings from 2021 after you've reviewed it. If you're meeting your goals, but you set your goals kind of like safe, then maybe ask yourself, how can I feel a little less comfortable but exceed my goals or set them higher, so that even if I don't make those goals, and that's another opportunity, right? Is like, if you didn't meet your goals, what if you actually had set your goals like way beyond what you thought you could do, but you actually made or reached your goal higher than what it would have been had you set it lower? Does that make sense? And so either way, you're going to have either a positive or a negative experience and feelings, but ask yourself, what kind of feeling do you want? And it's based on your personality, right? Some people have to set that goal a little lower and then overachieve and exceed the goal, and that's their way of doing it. Whereas some people need to set a higher goal, and then they don't have a problem in saying, hey, I didn't reach my goal, but I actually made still this much more than had I set it lower, right? And that's where I want you to decide where you're going to be. And depending on where you are, personality-wise, I want you to decide how you're going to set your goal and what you're going to feel when you're at the end of 2022 in December, okay? And I'm so excited for you, because here's your chance. And now when we go into how to set your goals for 2022, you're going to be able to monitor things monthly so that you can see whether you're on track. And if you're not on track, you have so much more time to fix it than if you were just to look at this once a year, right? Once a year, you're kind of like strategically planning, but once a year is not when you do this exercise. You do this monthly, and you start to really feel and be in tune with, hey, because then, even if you did this now at the end of January, again, this exercise, and yeah, I threw you a curveball. You're like, what? I thought I was just going to do this once a year. But yes, you do it once a year as an overview, but you also do it monthly, because you can then say, hey, I wasn't happy with January's results. What can I do now to fix it so February is better, right? Or fix it so that April's better, because sometimes when you do something on Zazzle, it takes a couple months to filter through and start seeing the results. But that's how you can become more in control, and you can reach those higher and higher goals. And even when you set the goals, then you'll be more worried about how to get those accomplished. What are you going to do to take to whatever you want to do, like gamify it, or motivate yourself, or see if there's a competition that you want to do with someone else who's going to hold you accountable, and the two of you both have your goals set, and they know each other's goals, and you're going to check in with each other every month to see how you're doing, and you're going to cheer each other on, or you're going to go like, hey, shake it off, let's do some other stuff. All of that is possible if you set your goals and if you've defined what you're going to do every month, and that makes it more enjoyable, rather than this just like ominous number that you have to reach, and you go like, I have no idea, but I've got to reach it because that's what I wanted. That's what my gut told me I needed to do, and what to achieve. And so I want to set you up in a way that allows you to feel that confident, and to find out where those gaps are, where in between, like let's say you set those goals and you go like, well, now what, right? But if you had not set those goals, you would never have been able to ask, now what? And so that's where Jen and I want you to be by the time you're finished this podcast. So I know this is running a little long, so the last part is pretty easy, because I'm going to actually direct you to my blog post that talks about the ERSD goal setting technique, and I need you to walk through it and read it in person, like at your own time, so that you can really understand how this can apply not just to the Zazzle business, but to every single goal that you have in your life, whether it's diet or friendship or business or savings or anything, fitness, you name it, any goal, small or big, you can apply this technique that I developed, which is the ERSD goal setting technique. And I want to read you what I wrote because I think this really explains it the most clearly. And it's what it is a proven goal setting technique that is fun to do, kind to our ego, and banishes our fears and doubts about success, all while helping us create and achieve success. Okay, so that's the gist of it, because it helps you never fail. Okay, and then you're going like, what do you mean I'm not going to fail? You just told me you spent a whole bunch of time on people who didn't achieve their goal last year. Exactly. It's because you probably weren't using the system, which means that there's never a chance for you to fail. It's only a chance for you to overachieve. Okay, and so the ERSD obviously stand for something. So the E is for easy, the R is for reasonable, the S is for stretch, and the D is for dream. And depending on how you want to set your goals, then whether each of those is per month, for example, or per, and then you can actually split it up a little bit more, and you can have the ER and the S be things that you're going to really hone in on as numbers of something. But then the dream could be like your full-on out dream, or it can be your top goal of the 4, right? That you can achieve in a certain amount of time that's reasonable, not just like 4 or 5 years from now. Or you can have that dream goal be your, in 5 years, this is where I want to be, right? So it's up to you. And that, again, by reading the article, then you'll understand a little bit more about how this works. But this is a podcast on its own. And I think actually I have a podcast episode. I need to go back to where it is, where I explain this as well. But I think I used it in conjunction with helping you do your plan goals. And so it's like part of a podcast specifically. And so I think the best thing to do is engage with us after you've watched this podcast, read the article, and then start to work with us through the Creative and Ambitious. And also, if you're in our coaching program, take advantage of the fact that we critique and give you feedback on the ERSD goals that you set. And that way you'll really get the essence of what you need in order to then follow and strive for those goals. All right, so in terms of setting those goals, what you may have already surmised is you're going to set 4 numbers for each goal, right? So if you wanted to earn $1 million, then that would be your dream goal. And but your easy goal would be what you've earned right now. And let's make it for the earning, we can make it for the year, or you can break it down and make it per month, right? And so for me, I'm going to go with the year for the earnings. And I'm going to say, my dream is, and this is just an example, is $1 million in earnings or revenue, you can decide. And I've been talking about sales all this time. So if you want to earn $100,000, because usually we set our royalty at 10%, and I suggest that for you as well, then I could make, if I sold $1 million worth of Zazzle products, I would make $100,000 payout from the Zazzle platform. And so if that's my dream goal for the year, then that's what I would do. And that's actually what Brandon did too. He said, I want to make $100,000 a year. He'd never made that before. And he actually overachieved and earned to $150,000 in 2021. And so his dream goal was, because he wanted to earn 100,000, his was 100,000, right? And then his easy goal would have been what he earned last year. So your easy goal would be whatever you earned in 2021, because you can at least achieve that again, right? And even if it's 0, you can definitely achieve that again. And if it was a couple of dollars or whatever, doesn't matter. At least make what you made last year. Okay, that's your easy goal. Then your reasonable goal would you ask yourself this question: what if I got some training, or I actually, did more than a couple hours work for the whole year, or, anything that was sort of a minimal basic addition to what you're currently doing or what you did in 2021, that would be your question to ask yourself, and then say, okay, well, how much more income could I make? And so usually it's not a lot. It's maybe double or so. But if like you made $1 last year, then maybe you can go to $100 for this year as your reasonable goal. Whereas if you made, let's say, $10,000 last year, then why don't you go for $15,000 or something like that, right? You double it, or you don't double it. Maybe it all depends on how you're feeling about your current situation and how much effort you're willing to put in, based on no extra training or anything like that. Just, what else you're going to put in as effort, for example, maybe. Obviously, sometimes I shouldn't have maybe said that about the training, because you can definitely get extra training. But I was just going to say that, something that's a reasonable effort, and reasonable effort sometimes doesn't mean going to get mega training. It just means you're going to learn one or two things, implement them, and you should get this, right? And so that would be your reasonable goal. And your stretch goal is, if I really worked hard, if I changed a lot of things in how I did things last year, I got more training, I put more time in, I created more intentional products, I, anything and everything to really switch it up, then that would be the stretch goal. Okay, and then obviously I already mentioned the dream goal. So that's easy. So that's what you're going to do with your earnings. Then you're going to do the same thing with your number of products that you make per month. Now this one's going to be a little bit more generic, because I'm going to give you some guidelines. I want your dream to be 100 products per month. Okay, because that's the optimal number. If you tell me now I have to make 1,000 products a month because otherwise I can't keep up with the competition, I'd rather you made 100 really intentional products that also were part of like strategic planning, which we give you that strategic plan in the coaching program, the Profit by Design Academy coaching program. And you just have to follow the system. But if you were not in that, then the help you can have, like I'll give you, is what is working and how do you leverage it, right? And those are the strategic things. Plus you're doing some strategy of finding new niches that you can grab hold of, right? And so your 100 products will be a nice combination of those as you see fit, unless you're in our coaching program. But it's hard to make those 100 intentional products, right? So volume isn't everything. One of our other episodes actually spoke towards that you don't need thousands and thousands of products just to make a sale. You have to bring in really great intentional products, and 100 is a lot for a month, especially if they're really thought out through, processed, well products, right? You're building your core store inventory. Now, in terms of your easy, reasonable, and stretch, you follow the same rules. So easy would be how many products you made a month on average last year. You can easily look that up by looking at your stats of when you published products, and you can do that by going into the back end of your Zazzle store and seeing it under the product tab when you're logged into the back end, right? And because you can just look and see what the dates are on your products that you made. And then the reasonable would be, like, if you put some effort into it, how much effort could you, like if you added an extra hour per week or something to your current stuff that you're doing to make the Zazzle business work for you, then what would that end up being? Like, how many more could you add in there? Would it be, like, let's say you could only make 10 a month before, you put a little bit of reasonable effort in, and you end up making double, so 20. Okay, so that's your goal for the number of products per month. And then the stretch would be somewhere between 20 and 100. Whatever would happen where you would say, hey, I'm going to really bust through this and make sure that I get as close to 100 every time, but I know I won't always reach it. But you want a goal that somehow allows you to at least make that close to that 100, where you can feel really good that you stretched yourself. Okay, and so that's what you're going to do. And then the number of hours you work. Again, in our Profit by Design Academy, we teach you that you can do this in 20 hours a month. So then that's your dream goal, is to 20 hours a month. And people forget that that's your dream goal is not 1,000 hours a month, because you don't want to work that hard. There's like, if you can't make it work right from the get-go with 20 hours, then unfortunately you're going to create a new lifestyle that's just as much work time as your old lifestyle. And so, but that forces you also to become extremely clear and very productive and efficient with the time that you do have time to spend on the Zazzle platform. So 20 is your dream, and you may have an E as like 0 or 1 hour a month or something based on how much you've worked, or it may be a really high number, right? Like you've been working hundreds of hours every month, and put that down. That's your easy goal. But what I want you to do is go into the reasonable goal and the stretch goal and bring it down to 20 gradually, okay? So that ultimately you work your way towards a goal of 20 hours a month while still making that high amount of income and the number of products. Okay, so that wraps up everything. So as a recap, what we want you to, Jen and I want you to do is reflect back on 2021, what your goals were and did you achieve them? Then how did you feel at the end of 2021, which by the time you're listening to this, that'll be 2022 in January. And then how do you want to feel in 2022 at the end of the year? And hopefully the feelings will be different, right? Obviously. And then you'll proceed accordingly with how you set up your plan for 2022. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set your goals based on our ERSD goal setting technique. And believe me, once you start implementing those, these are not just numbers you make up and then you leave it. You're working with those every month, and you're checking in and double checking. And how did I do? And you're monitoring your time, and you're monitoring the number of products, and you're monitoring your earnings. And you can also add other ones. Remember at the beginning of the podcast, I said, once you set those core top goals and the measurements you're going to take, then you can go deeper and you can say, on a scale of 1 to 10, did I create an intentional product when I created those, 100 products, or are 50 of them just like what I say, and maybe this is rude, but when you just slap it on something else because you don't know what else to do, that means that you only worked at 50% capacity, even though you made 100 products. Right? So that you can get that specific about your monitoring your progress and what you do. And the most important thing is to be very, very honest with yourself so that you can create that efficient machine that can then work passively for you. Because what you're doing is actively working right now, and you're trying to create a passive cash flow machine. And unless you are honest with yourself and you set your business up properly, then you're just like trying to be an employee that's trying to skirt away from whatever the boss wants you to do, right? The boss is your dreams and desires. And then you will be, if you're not like owning up to that and measuring how you're doing and keeping yourself accountable and actually allowing yourself to go like, hey, Elka, you messed up. You didn't do all the hours this week or this month. Double next month, right? And so if you can't do and say those kinds of things to yourself and take them seriously, then unfortunately you're not going to be able to run a business that's going to succeed at that high level. And if you need help with that, that's of course perfectly fine. We're not hardwired with that originally. That takes practice and it takes support and it takes community. And so that's why this Profit by Design Academy has worked so well for the people who have joined, is because we provide that. We know that it's not that easy. I'm the first to go like, Harlequin romance movies on right now. Christmas one I haven't seen yet. I'll do my Zazzle work later. And it was like, no, I'm going to do this hour first. I'm going to tape it and I'm going to watch it later. That's where we want to get you with your business, how should I say it? Like responsibilities and your commitment to the business so that you can get to those higher numbers, which is what you want, right? And we're here to help and support you. Okay, so thanks so much for listening to this really mega episode, but it should set you up for an incredible 2022. And we want to hear back from you. ERSD goals. How did you do? How did you feel? And also, if you want to know more about how you can work with us, then the link is in the show notes. And also, you can go to our website and click on that link that says work with us. Okay, so thanks so much for listening, and good luck with that planning for 2022.